Hello and welcome to JavaScript Marathon, a full week of free online courses in some of the leading web development technologies and concepts. Super happy to introduce you to Adesoji Temitope. He is going to present us exploring Nuxt 3 and Composition API. Welcome, Adesoji.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm happy.
Special thanks to this week's sponsor, This.Labs, offering personalized training programs to suit your organizational needs, ensuring you and your company stay on the leading edge. If you find keeping up with constantly evolving technologies a struggle and want to bring your team up to speed on one of the latest technologies, contact us today at hi@this.co to set up your complimentary needs assessment. This.Labs is hiring. If you're a senior software engineer or developer advocate, send us your info at jobs@this.co. You can also take a look at our detailed job descriptions at this.co/jobs. We have a ton of upcoming events happening in the next few weeks. React Mentoring with Dustin Goodman and Jesse Tomchak next week, March 22nd, as well as State of You with Evan Yu and Simone Cuono. React World Tour makes a stop in New York City on April 5th in partnership with Real World React, and Angular Mentoring kicks off on April 14th with Rob Osell. JavaScript Marathon returns in May. We're presenting Cloudflare, Node, and serverless training, and more coming soon. Stay tuned on javascriptmarathon.com. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Adesoji.
Thank you, Sarah. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I am Timothy Adesoji, software developer at This.Dot. Today, we will be talking about exploring Nuxt 3 and the Composition API. Yes, thank you for coming. Like I said, I'm Timothy Adesoji, software engineer at This.Dot. My Twitter handle, David_. And yes, this is a link to my blog profile on This.Dot. Yeah, I'll share that after the conversation. So basically, we're going to be talking about Nuxt 3. Nuxt 3 is currently in beta, and there are a couple of improvements that have been made in Nuxt 3 over Nuxt 2. And one of the major things that was done is Nuxt 3 is now faster and lighter than Nuxt 2, and Nuxt 3 also uses Byte for bundling. So this makes things like alt module reloading way faster. And yes, also Nuxt 3 now has TypeScript inbuilt. So this comes straight out of the box. You don't need to buy any configuration to get it running. So that's really great. And also Nuxt 3 has component auto imports. This has already been introduced in some of the newer versions of Nuxt 2, but it's also in Nuxt 3, and I'll be talking about that also. And lastly, our major talking points would be on the Composition API. The Composition API is basically a feature of Vue 3 that is really cool and was brought into Nuxt because Nuxt 3 uses Vue 3. So yes, we have the Composition API available, and I'm going to be talking about it also. So we are going to basically walk through building a Nuxt 3 application, building like let's say a to-do application using Nuxt 3. Yes, so let's get right into it. Okay, yes, so basically to start a Nuxt 3 application, you use, let me increase this. Yes, to create a Nuxt 3 project, you basically use npx nuxt init, then your project name. Since I'm already inside the project Nuxt 3, I'll just do this. Yes. And now we would have that run quickly. Okay, yes. So now we have our Nuxt application available to us. Since I did specify a project name, it basically give it Nuxt app. And inside Nuxt app, we can see our project has been scaffolded. We have our git ignore, we have our app.view, Nuxt config, we have our Nuxt config, and the JSON and tsconfig file, because this is a TypeScript application. It has TypeScript inbuilt. Yes, so I'm sure you can see like the difference in Nuxt 3 project setup and Nuxt 2 project setup. If you've ever used Nuxt 2 before, now you can see that we have an app.view file inside our Nuxt app root folder, which is very interesting, and I'll be talking about it also. And now we have our Nuxt.config is a TypeScript file, and also we would notice some things in our package.json. We can see that Nuxt 3 is now being added as a dev dependency, and it is not a dependency anymore. Nuxt is no longer a dependency, but Nuxt 3 is now a dev dependency. Yes. So some of the features of Nuxt that, okay, let's first start up our application. Sorry. So we are going to cd into our Nuxt app, and now we are in. Let's run npm install. So yes. So we are trying to install our packages now. While that is installing, like I said, we have app.view now directly, and if you notice, there's no anymore. So you can just create our applications, create Nuxt applications that don't need routing inside our app.view. So if, for example, we have just a single page, plus, for example, that has one page, we can write our code. We can have our code directly in the app.view and not required to create a pages folder anymore. And that means that Nuxt won't bundle the view router in our application, which definitely makes your app lighter. Yes. So sorry, my internet is really buggy. It's taking a while. Okay, so while that is also coming up, we can talk about the server. So in Nuxt applications now, you can have APIs basically. So you can build your front-end APIs directly inside your Nuxt application. And how to do that, you basically just you create a server folder, and inside the server folder, you create another folder called API. And inside API, you basically create your API. So for example, we want to create an API called hello, and we can have hello.ts. Since our application is now TypeScript, we can have hello, and we can have export default. We can return hello world. Okay. Yeah, this one. Yes. Okay. So what's still going on? We want to create, let's have this readme that to do's in the application. store items in IndexedDB, retrieve items from IndexedDB, unload, and okay, yeah. So let's work on this too. Let's say delete also. So delete items from IndexedDB. Yes. Okay, I think we're close. Yes. Yes, let's get this. Okay. Yes, let's go. Let's go. My internet is really bad. Okay. Yes, it's building. Yes, and we're done. So now yarn install is done, and what we need to do is yarn and it should start up our application. Yes, so it's running on localhost 3000. So, yes, so this is we've now set up our Nuxt application, and it comes with like the basic scaffolding of Nuxt. And now this is Nuxt welcome, which is basically what shows this here. And also now if you can notice, we don't have a layout folder, and we can create a layout folder. You can still use layouts within, even though you have your app.view. And also, it is not compulsory to use app.view. You can decide to delete the app.view file and create your pages. So, yes. So we have pages, and now we can do index.view. And inside index.view, we have templates. And so let's just have a root div. Let's create. So here. So basically, this is how the setup is done for a view file. But since we are using Nuxt, we don't need this. With Nuxt, we can just simply specify setup, and we are good. Yes. So let's do a basic counter. Let's say count, and let's have a button. So now let's create a count. So in view 3, we have the ability to use ref, which is basically like a reactive value that knows when it changes, basically monitors changes. So initially we can have 0, that's the ref, and so this is complaining ref, yes. So what's this complaining? This is a TypeScript issue. I think we can still leave that out. I think my VS Code needs to reload for that to clear. So now we have count, which is this. We can simply print out count here, and it says this. Okay, we have 4 page not found. Okay, so we're back. So yeah, there's also, since Nuxt 3 is still in beta, sometimes the server doesn't do what you need it to do, and you have to like stop it and restart it. So let's stop that and start. So yes. Okay. So yeah. Nuxt app.view. So we can decide to delete this file. So let's just rename it to a.view and let's stop our server and restart. Is this still causing an issue? Yeah, let's delete this. We can maybe add it back after. I think we should stop our server and restart it. Okay, so it's starting now. Okay, yes. So now we have our count equals, let me try to increase this screen. Yes, so now we have our count 0 and we have our add button. So now when we click add, we want to increase count. So we can have, let's click increase counter and we create increase count. And this basically what we do dot value. So when we are using ref, we have to use dot value where we're specifying it inside our script, but we don't need to do dot value inside our template because Vue would automatically map that to dot value. So we don't need to do that. So we can just do this +1. Now save. Okay, still have an issue. Let's see what the issue might be. Okay, yes. So counter is supposed to be a function. Sorry. So we have this. Let's do that. Okay. So let's try to debug this. So let's see. So okay. So we get it to increase counter. We just need to find out why. Oh, sorry. We use let. We use const there. We should have used let. So now we have cost of value, count of value. We can do plus plus. So now when we click on add, it automatically adds one. And so basically, this is how you would do a simple count in Nuxt 3. If you were to do this with Nuxt 2, that means you would have had a data, you would have had a method, and you would also have had maybe a computed value. But with Nuxt 3 and the composition API, um, you don't need to do that. You can have all your logic staying in one particular function. You can have all your logic in one particular function. So now let's go to the task of the day. I already have a simple scaffolding for what our nodes should look like. Let me try to copy that over. Yes, so sorry, into Okay, so I'm creating, let me copy over CSS2. So you can follow this. Oops, sorry, managing two systems together. Okay. Doesn't want to copy. So let's just do it out. I have it close by. So width of 100%. Next width 500 pixels. So this is just a styling for our notes application, which we are trying to build. And just to save us some time, I'm trying to fill up our styles quickly. Inputs. Box. So let's do this quickly so we can see what we have. And so we have one more, and we should be good to go. Yes. So now we're good to go. So let's stop ourselves and start click again. Okay. So let's close off. So this is we have a simple application. We have and clicks on it and it adds to notes and basically store that value in our index DB. I think that's what we agree. Yeah. So we'll store that value in our index DB and we should also retrieve that value back from our index DB or load, and we should make use of the composition API. And yes, so let's go. So index.view and here. Okay. So the first thing we need to be able to do is we need to be able to take in the inputs, right? So we can have, let's comment all this out and start. So we can have, let's say notes, right? Or let's say note title to equal to, so we'll use a ref now and would say null for a start. And we take our node title and map it to our inputs. So we need to take in these inputs and we say v model, and we have our node title as the input now. And what we want to do is on submit, we want to take this value and store this value in our index DB. So our next step, I would say, should be we should create a composable. So what is a composable? A composable is basically like a method that gives you that abstracts your composition API away from your script setup. So basically, you can create a not inside pages, sorry, inside a composables. The composables folder, you can create whatever composable you want to create. So let's call this use index DB TS, since we're using TypeScript, of course. And so the use is basically, like I call it, a term that is being used now, a common term basically. So there are other composables that you find, such as use cookie, use state. So that's why we have to use in our composable there. So use index DB. So it's just like I don't know what to call it now, but just like a general term. Yeah, so we are creating a composable called use index DB. And what do we want this composable to be able to do? We want this composable to be able to, number one, and store them. We also want to be able to retrieve data from our index DB. So data from our index DB and sends it out to us. We also want to be able to delete, for example. So let's start, and we'll say export default function. Sorry. Yes, so we export start notes ref, and initially our notes will definitely be an empty array, right? Since we're using TypeScript, let's create type. Okay. So let's create a type called notes. Do we need to export it? Not yet. So let's say interface notes. So notes, and inside our notes, we can have our title. And what is our title? Our title is basically a string. And so we can pass these notes here. We can tell our ref that for everywhere you see notes, this is what you expect. So since notes is an array of notes, we can have something like array and have our notes here. So now everywhere we see notes, it knows it is an array of this. And now we can also do let db so this is the default db. This is the default tag for index db. It should be available to you directly. And now, what do we want to be able to do? One, for index db, you need to set up an index db. So we need to create a setup. And we need to create a read. So then also, what else do we need? We need add or create. So what should we call it? Let's say create. And so our setup index db, add item to index db, read item from index db. Let's say read items from index db. So we have our functions now, and what do we need to do? All we need to do is return them. Setup. We can return read. Yes. And now we can start to use them in our index.view. And how we use them? We created indexdb.ts, and one of the cool things about Nuxt is Nuxt does automatic imports for you. So, for example, there's automatic imports for all of your composables. There's automatic imports for your components. If you have time, I would set up a component and also import that. That would be imported automatically also. And yes, so now we can use our composable, use IndexedDB directly now inside our index.view file. We need, for example, index db equals to use index db, and we're good. So now this index db automatically should, I don't know, my TypeScript is complaining. Desktop R7 started. It shouldn't complain. Okay, seems we have an issue. Use index db. Composables, use index db. Let's try this. Something like this. I don't think that was the issue. Let's stop our server and restart it. Sorry. Okay. Ref. It's complaining about something. Not during execution. Yes, so it is not saying this for some reason. Let's do. It should not be political. Let's try. This is really weird. Yeah, you did the right syntax. Use index db. Yes. Composable index db. I think this is still perhaps composition. Let's see. Okay, so it worked. But we shouldn't need to do this. We'll get back to why we need to import it like this. Yes, so now we have ability to use index db. Now we have with Nuxt theory is now you Nuxt 2, you would do something like this. Export defaults mounted, and you would call a function unmounted. But now we can't do this anymore. visualizing this set of flow. You can still do this actually, and you can even have the two scripts actually in a single. We can give it a try. We can just log something here. So the log testing on mounted. And also to do mounted in for setup, all you need to do is on mounted and unmounted basically do this. So we can also log something here. Also log unmounted. The three, let's see. Yeah, that's it. So scratched again. So Nuxt 3 is not production ready yet. What's you must be saying? Okay, so we're good. What do we have as an issue now? Okay, yes, so that's true. Sometimes you have, because we're using TypeScript, sometimes you have to put the language type here also. So it's very important. And stop and start. Okay, yeah, so now we can see I mounted successfully Nuxt 3, testing on mounted Nuxt 2. So both still works. So yeah, so this still works. You can still use this perfectly all right. But yes, for larger applications, you are perfectly fine to use the options API for your regular applications, for most applications actually. But the compositions API would be very good for large applications where you have logics that are shared, for example, and logics that are very large. Yeah, so you can use the compositions API to abstract that away. So let's log this out. You don't need that. So now we're here. So what we want to do with our index DB is we want to do index DB dot setup. So every time, that means every time once our application is mounted, we want setup, and also once our application is mounted, we want to read. So we want to get the previous data that is in our index, the data in our index, and we come to that particular page. We want to get the previous data that we already had. So we want to read data. And we have read. And also, what else do we have? We have create. So at what point do we want to create? We want to create on click of submit. And we can do click here and have, let's say, save title. And for save title, you can simply come here and do save title. And save title, we have our save title, we get our notes. We have our notes dot value, don't forget. And we need to pass our note dot value to index db dot create. Yes, but now we've not added the ability to receive our note title, so we need to go and add that. Yeah, so we create, we're taking a title, which is and here, so our touch vector is gone. And now we can save. So we have our save title. Yeah. So we're good. Yeah. So I already have a flow for, I already have the setup and for just this works this time. Copy. Let's try. Great. New file. Oh, it works. Yes. So now we have it here. Okay. So basically here, all we're doing here is setup. We're setting up IndexedDB. To process that, but that's a scope of our conversation. So let's give our DB name Nuxt 3 notes, for example, and so that error is gone. We also have an error for this. So what I think we can do for that is we can declare global interface window, and we can have all these guys there. We can have you pointing to IDB factory. So we're just trying to clear these errors. Nothing there, and we save, and these errors are gone, but they are not gone. So we need to look at why. Window, yes. So capital W. And now these errors are gone. So we have our setup done, right? And now we need create also. I have create. Fingers crossed. Copy this. Let's copy this. Copy. No. There we go again. Okay, yes, it copied. So now, okay, so here also, basically what is saving record is if we're saving a record we don't want to save again, we don't want to accept another one. So the saving record is a Boolean, and it will be false by default. So that should prevent the error. Yes. So okay. Yes. So it is a ref, and that's false by default. So we don't need to do it here. We can do it here. So we have Boolean. Yes. So now it's saving record. This yes. So we have that. Let's quickly copy read because we are going out of time already. Copy. Yes. Yeah, I also added like a callback here, which I don't think is necessary, but it's just the data array notes. And that, so this is basically a callback function, so should point to void. And yes, so now we have this. So we have a function to create, we have a function to read, we have a function to set up. And now we are basically using them here. since setup is a promise, and we need to make sure that our index DB has been set up before we read the data, we can do setup.then, and inside then we call it, right? And log to know when it was set up. So I have set up index DB. I have read index DB. I have saved index DB. And yes, I think we're good to go. Yeah, I think we're good to go. And we need to know, we need to have access to notes, right? Because we need to display notes on our page. But let's first test that the data is saving. So when we get here, okay, yes. So it worked. I have mounted successfully. I've set up IndexedDB. I have read IndexedDB. So let's try adding something. Let's say test one. We click submit. I have saved item to IndexedDB. Let's check our IndexedDB. Sorry, application. Yes. So we named our DB Nuxt notes, and when we open Nuxt notes, yay, it's saving it. So we have our title test one saved, right? And now what we need to do is we need to show it here in the list. Basically, what do we need to do that? We need to access notes, and notes is inside use IndexedDB, and we have that here. So what we can do is we can say IndexedDB.notes, right? And here, for we can do IndexedDB.notes. Or let's actually pass that to a reactive value, or is it? No, let's just use it. So let's do this. Let's test it actually in notes. So let's say we have notes and index. Just to remove the error, we key. Yes, we have notes, but we are not returning notes. So notes. So now we're returning notes. It no longer complains, and now we have notes. But we can use notes like that. We need to do this notes. And now we're good. So now when we refresh the page, we have title notes. So now we need to find out why we have multiple of this. We should have just one. So let's do this. Unmounted, unread, let's log index db dot notes the value. Yeah. And now when we refresh, we have an array of one item. So let's find out why that is wrong here. So I guess we could simply do this notes and pass index db dot index db dot notes to it. And now loop over notes. Sorry. Now loop over notes. Yeah. So
Hey everyone, it looks like Adesoji is having a little bit of difficulty. What I did is I dropped Adesoji's Twitter handle here. If you have any follow-up questions for him, please feel free to reach out on Twitter. You can also drop comments if you're watching this in the playback. We will get back to you as soon as we can. But thank you so much for joining us. We're going to be back in May and we have a ton of upcoming events. So take a look on our website, tune into javascriptmarathon.com, and we will see y'all soon. Thank you.